she looked over at him again, standing there with a moody glower worthy of Lancelot. "Whatever is the matter?" she asked, hands fisting to her hips.
"It's that costume you've got on," he complained, his hands wavering in front of her.
It was supposed to be Daphne's.
That did not seem to appease him. "I cannot believe my aunt allowed you out in that shameful rag."
"So much for magic." "There is nothing wrong with this gown," she told him. "It is as historical as yours." "Good heavens, I'm wearing more than I was when you kissed me in Sir Maurice's garden," she wanted to remind him. Then again, perhaps the kiss hadn't been as memorable to Roxley as it had been to her. Her gaze flew up, only to find his face aglower.
"Historical indeed. Mine covers me," he replied. "No wonder Mark Antony lost his honour."
Harriet brazened her way forward. Better that than consider that Roxley had no interest in kissing her again. "Perhaps I should go find him and see if he will walk with me in the gardens." Since the only Mark Antony inside the ballroom was Lord Fieldgate, this managed to darken Roxley's scowl. For most of the evening, the resplendent and rakish Viscount had done his utmost to commandeer Harriet's time, declaring her his perfect Cleopatra. Roxley, as it turned out, wasn't done complaining.
"How convenient for Fieldgate that Miss Dale's untimely departure—"
"Elopement,"
Harriet corrected. "That is still left to be seen," Roxley commented. "It is only an elopement if they marry."
"When they marry?"
"So you insist," he demurred.
"I do,"
Harriet said firmly.
Daphne would never have run off so if she hadn't been utterly positive that she was about to be wed. She just wouldn't. "Besides, Preston will see them married."
"The Duke will do his level best. He just has to find Lord Henry and Miss Dale before her cousin interferes."
Viscount Dale. Harriet hoped his carriage tumbled off the road. He was a rather bothersome prig, and could very well put a wrench into Daphne's plans. "True love can overcome all odds," she said most confidently. At least, it always did in her Miss Darby novels. Besides, she had to look no further than Tabitha and Preston, or Lord Henry and Daphne for her proof. True love always won the day. And now she and Roxley would have their chance. Harriet glanced over at him, searching for confirmation.
"True love?" he scoffed. "Harry, you astound me. Now here I've always thought you the most sensible, practical girl I've ever known, but—"
The Earl continued on, though Harriet had stopped listening at that one wretched word. Girl, though sensible was nearly as bad. Would he ever stop thinking of her as a child? He certainly hadn't thought her merely a girl when he'd kissed her back in London. Had he changed his mind since then? He couldn't have. He'd kissed her, for heaven's sakes. He wouldn't have done that unless— She shook her head at the doubts that assailed her, the ones that had plagued her since their arrival here at the Duke of Preston's house party. What if Roxley didn't think her worthy of being his countess? It was easy to think so when she compared herself to the rest of the company. Then it was all too easy to see she had faults aplenty. A decided lack of a Bath education, like a proper lady. Not one provided by her brother's tutor. She laughed too loud. Her embroidery was non-existent, much like her skills at the pianoforte and watercolours. In short, she wasn't refined enough to be a countess. Even Roxley's. But perhaps those things didn't matter to him, she told herself for about the 1000th time. And certainly there was one way to find out. Harriet straightened slowly, and then tipped one shoulder slightly, letting the clasp at her shoulder, the one which held up the sheer silken overgown, slide dangerously close to coming off her. The entire gown was like that. Illusion after illusion that it was barely on, wasn't truly concealing the lady beneath. For under the first layer of sheer silk was another one.